Welcome to Recovering Out Loud podcast. The opinions expressed here are those of the individuals and not of any organization.
I found alcohol and weed, and it was literally like, I mean, at the time I didn't see it as this, but it was my medication. It felt like everything, the world had just been set right, like all those feelings that I had just weren't there anymore. I can talk about this in hindsight, but obviously at the time I was young and I didn't understand this. But
welcome everybody. I got a special guest on today. I have somebody that I met online. I really admire his content and what he does for the recovery community. I think a lot of people can get a lot from it. The Recovery Club, is that right? Is the name of your channel? The Recovery Club. Yeah, this is, I found this gentleman online and I liked what he had to say. And he didn't even, what I loved is he didn't even hesitate to say yes, right? When asked to do service in recovery, he said yes, without a doubt. And I really appreciate that. So all the way from Bali, by way of the UK, thank you so much, Rick, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate it. Let's get into it, man. Let's start off. Why don't we start off with this? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you were like in addiction, what kind of happened to kind of hit your bottom or not, and then what you're like today.
Right. So I believe I was semi-born an alcoholic addict, my earliest memories from a young kid is that irritable, restless, discontent feeling. Just plain uncomfortable in my own skin, And growing up it was hard. And I want to say this was at no fault to my upbringing. Like I consider my upbringing something which most people would dream of,
Yeah.
I had loving parents, I had a loving sister, I was taken around the world. But that feeling of irritable, restless, discontent just was always there. And just from a young age, I remember school, I was a popular kid, but I'd say semi-popular kid. But I figured a way to put on masks and hide behind how I was feeling,
Yeah.
And I could almost get along with anyone. I could put on a mask for each group of people. And I think over the years, living that life, you kind of forget who you are. So yeah, those feelings, those ill feelings just stuck with me as a child. And at the age of 13, 14, I found alcohol and weed, and it was literally I mean, at the time I didn't see it as this, but it was my medication. It felt like everything, the world had just been set right. All those feelings that I had just weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
I can talk about this in hindsight, but obviously at the time I was young and I didn't understand this. And then so I ran with it. I became what I perceived as even more popular. I was able to socialize without doubting myself, and that feeling of uncomfortable just wasn't there. I was able to speak to girls. I was able to do all the things that I thought a young man should be doing.
You should be doing, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, so my drinking really just excelled. By 18, I knew I had a problem. I knew I wasn't like the rest. You know, like you always hear when someone can call it a night or put down the drink because they've said they've had enough. That was never the case for me.
Yeah.
I was always the one that took it further and further and further. And I acknowledged that at 18. I remember thinking to myself, like, why am I different? And I think at the age I was, and the lack of education around addiction as well, I felt super alone. You know, I felt like I had this burden on me that like was taboo, and I couldn't speak about it, and that just compounded my drinking really, and my drug taking. So I always say it's never with addiction. It's never really about the drink or drugs. It's about the escape of pain, and the drink and drugs just compounded the pain, and my want to escape just grew higher. So yeah, early 20s was a complete mess. I was able to hold down jobs. But I just I hated who I was. I hated every part of myself. Any second sober, I wanted out. I couldn't, it was just unbearable.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2024 was the worst year of my life. By this point, I was drinking. On some days, I would have about 2 liters of vodka a day, which is crazy to some, but there was a lead up to this, and 2 liters of vodka was enough for me to be okay without withdrawals throughout the day, you know.
What did those withdrawals look like? Sorry, what did those withdrawals look like?
Just extreme shakes. So every morning I would wake up, I could barely walk, I could barely talk, I would just be shaking. And I knew I needed to drink. So like my breakfast would be a half bottle, which in England is about 35 centiliters of vodka. And I would do that in one. And then I went from the world feeling like it was imploding around me to all of a sudden just like I could take a breath.
You could breathe, yeah.
My shakes were gone. My shakes were gone. The anxiety was gone, and I could just breathe. And yeah, that was my reality for years. But obviously with that came consequences in my life, and my health was deteriorating massively. My relationships with my family were deteriorating massively. My relationship with work was deteriorating massively. And as a result, I'd say probably the last 6 months of my drinking, it was a big blur. From what I do know is I was rushed to hospital, where the professionals were pumping me full of Librium, so like benzo, just to try and stabilize my withdrawals. But they couldn't stop me from repeatedly going into seizures. So I think I had about 2 or 3, and then they made the call to put me in an induced coma. And yeah, I lied there in a coma over Christmas and New Year's, and I woke up. I remember it so clearly. I woke up to a nurse saying to me, "We honestly didn't think we'd see you again." But
Wow.
she said it so casually to me. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Like I was nothing, you know.
Wow.
Or not nothing, but maybe something she sees all the time, you know.
Right.
And I asked her who's here to see me, and she said no one. And I knew then, if I didn't make a change in my life, like I wouldn't hit my 25th birthday.
Wow.
I was so done. But it's strange because I at the same time I really didn't want to live anymore. Like, as hard as it is for me to say that, like, yeah, it was bad, but I don't know where it came from, but there must have been some part of me that wanted change. So I said to the hospital, I need help. You can't let me back out there. I will die. And I was moved to a rehab, which was hard. Like rehab was hard.
Yeah.
You know, being sober after all them years, like I was hit by all the feelings.
Yeah. Emotions. Yeah.
All the feelings hit me. All the feelings that I'd been running from from the age of 13, just like a steam train, just hit me in the face, and like there was no escaping. But what I did have is I had individuals around me that were going through the same. You know, and like I said earlier on in the story, like from being that kid and thinking I'm the only one in this world that feels like this or is experiencing this pain. All of a sudden I was in a group where everyone shared the same feelings. They behaved in the same way. They treated their family the same way. And like, I think I felt a bit of connection there, and it gave me the strength to just carry on. And by carrying on, I mean speaking my truth, like every single truth in my life, like all my wrongdoings, all my pain, and being able to process that pain in a safe environment with people that truly cared for me.
No judgment. Yeah.
No judgment.
Yeah.
And the feelings that I'd been running from my whole life, I was finally able to work through them, and it was hard. Like it wasn't easy. So yeah, I learned a lot in rehab. I learned a lot about myself. I left rehab, and you know, leaving rehab is a big deal as well. Like I felt like I was let off into this scary, terrifying world.
New world. Yeah.
New world, and I honestly felt like I was 13 again. I had no idea on how to navigate, but I knew that if I just got through each day, like I knew I grew stronger, and I just ran with that. I continued speaking my truth, continued just doing good things in my life, you know. And then yeah, fast forward to now, I'm over 8 years sober. I'm currently living in Bali. And yeah, if I was to go back and tell that the me that was lying in the hospital bed, this is where I'd be today, I would say no chance. You know what I mean?
I can relate to that. Yeah.
but I know people hear it a lot, like one day at a time, like
Yeah.
it builds up, and dreams become true, you know, just by doing the right things, speaking your truth, being honest, not just honest with yourself, with others, but most importantly, honest with yourself, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I was I think it was yesterday. I was having this moment yesterday, and I have these moments now in sobriety where I kind of have this gratitude fill my heart once in a, like I'm because I'm present and I'm able
Yeah,
to notice them. Yesterday, I had this feeling of gratitude that. For one, we were watching the hockey game. Hockey's big over here, and we're in the playoffs right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in the playoffs. And for one, I related sports a lot to drinking and drugging. Like, I couldn't go to a sporting event. I couldn't go to a football match. I couldn't go to, we have football here. It's not as good as Arsenal, right?
yeah,
But they try their best. And, for one, I was able to be with my family and enjoy the game and not be in the bathroom half the time and, worried about if I have enough to get me through the game. And because I couldn't equate enjoyment of my favorite sports to being sober. It just didn't make sense to me for a long time, right? So, I was having this moment yesterday. I was like, man, I'm so grateful I'm sober today, that I miss this, because I had a good period of time as well, like yourself. And I decided to take my will back and do things my way, right? And that's what led me back out ultimately. But I was having this moment where I was like, man, this is good. Life is good, I can be here. I can enjoy my family. People want to be around me again. I don't need to hide my emotions. I can be honest and speak my truth, like you said. And it's such a beautiful thing, man. Like, I don't think I ever would have felt this way or got this way if I didn't get into sobriety. And then, so the other thing I just remembered now that, I was like, man, I really miss this about recovery is that, I don't know about you, but you talked about goals and aspirations, right? When I was drinking and drugging, there was no such thing as like the future 5 years from now. I had such a pessimistic view on life that yesterday I really had this moment where I was like, man, I'm actually thinking about my goals again and the future, and I'm feeling optimistic about it. Oh my God, I miss that so much, right? When I'm drinking and drugging, there is no optimism about tomorrow whatsoever. It is like, oh my God, how am I going to get through today? How am I going to get to tomorrow? Man, I have to go to this stupid thing next week and all week I'm just like, I really don't want to do this, right? So one of the gifts for me, one of the gifts for me so recently that I've noticed is this drive to win comes back, this drive to be better and have goals and achieve these goals. It's almost like you forget that is possible to have as a human, these aspirations and these goals. So I just wanted to put that in there because, you reminded me of that. Sobriety's hard, but it's simple. There's a set of steps that are simple to follow, and man, is it so worth it. At the end of the day, I can put my head down on the pillow. I can put my head down on the pillow and say, I did okay today. I don't hate myself. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And not every day is like that, but I definitely don't hate myself anymore, right?
yeah. And I think this is massive in sobriety. Like self-love is it doesn't happen overnight, but it is the route to freedom. Because I've gone from someone that despised every part of who I was, to like you said, like you go to bed at night and you've done right by the world. You've done right by yourself, and you've done right by others. And self-love is massive for me. It's key. Yeah.
How do you practice self-love today? Because I know sometimes even in recovery, it could be hard too, right? It could be hard sometimes.
Yeah. 100%.
I know that's probably a difficult question, but
No, it's a good question. I mean, I guess when I do have times where I slightly, maybe I'm having a bad day or I'm doubting myself, I just take time to reflect. You know, maybe maybe those feelings have come because I've acted in a certain way to others, and maybe I could have been better. You know, I feel like self-awareness is just key for us, and it's good to take inventory, because we're not perfect. Like I'm gonna have days where I maybe speak to someone in a bad way, and I need to reflect on that and make amends. And then I think these are all hard things, but they're all acts of self-love, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. If you love others too, you're gonna love yourself, right? And then it's kind of like this circle moment, you know. We kind of talked about this before, and when I was catching up with you, and I know, because when I first got sober, I've been to 3 rehabs now, and my first one was in Minnesota in the United States, and I live in Canada. So I had built a very strong recovery program in the United States. I had friends there, I had support, I was going to my meetings, I was doing all these things, I had a sponsor. But one of the hardest things that I had to do was pick that all up and kind of almost start over again in a new place when I came back to Toronto. What was that like, kind of moving your whole support system and kind of getting a new one, going from the UK to Bali?
I mean, I think it was hard for me, but I have good people in my life, and a lot of them necessarily aren't there physically near to me all the time, but I know that they're there. Also, like I know I'm in Bali, but there's support groups here, and also creating this Instagram page as well has allowed me to access tons of people globally, that relate and just understand us,
Yeah, totally.
But I want to also say, like, my move to Bali was because I got to a point in my recovery where, like we were talking about goals and dreams before, that I really did I wanted to just, live my life. Like, and these were traveling the world, seeing different places, seeing different culture is something that's always been close to me.
I love doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I'm sober now. I'm in recovery. I'm gonna go for it. And yeah, there's been days that are hard. There's been lonely days, and but ultimately, I'm living my life to the fullest now, and for that, I am beyond grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man. That's, it's, when we live in fear every day, and at least for me, when I lived in fear every day in addiction and active addiction, there was no such chance of me doing anything like that. There was, I was so scared of all the things that haven't happened yet. What if the plane crashes? What if I don't make it there? What if I don't have enough alcohol? Like all these things that I never would have done something like that. I don't even think I would travel. I don't even remember traveling. All my amazing vacations that I've been on, to Europe, to Hawaii, to the Caribbean, they've all been in sobriety, man. Like they've all been in sobriety because, for one, I have the money to do it again. And two is like, it's in my heart to like explore other cultures, like you said, get some perspective on the world. When I think my life is really bad some days, dude, I go to Cuba and I see like the way some people live in Cuba and how unfortunate that's just one example, right? But you go there, even in the United States, there's areas in the United States where I'll go to and I'm like, man, I don't have it that bad at all. Like my life is actually really good, man. It's like, stop complaining, dude. You know what I mean? There's people that have way less than you and they're happy, figure it out sometimes. Right. So I absolutely love that. I'm very curious. What Because I know there's a lot of stigma in addiction in general, and I know it's pretty much around the world, maybe some places less than others. What would you say is the difference in how people view addicts and alcoholics in the UK versus in a place like Bali?
From what I've seen, addiction is not rife here in Bali. You know, there's extremely strict drug laws here. So like, drugs is not something you see regularly on the streets of Bali, but alcohol is, and I've heard bits about local people maybe struggling, but I mean, I've been to support groups meetings here, and local guys that are in the meetings as well. So yeah, my from what I see, I don't see a lot of addiction here. You know, the expats that live here usually, they've come for like a better life, and like you were just saying, and the reality is the same for me. Back in active addiction, I couldn't have moved here, you know. So, and also Bali is it's a very health based place. Like,
Yeah, a lot of avocado.
Yeah, people here walking around like Zeus
Yeah.
on around the streets. Like, it's crazy. And it's very spiritual, you know, like it's a very spiritual place. People come here, they do lots of meditation, they do lots of yoga. It's a very, it's encouraged to look after your mental health here, you know.
That's great. Yeah.
So it's a warm environment to be around.
Yeah.
You know, it's inspiring. Like, everyone's trying to just better themselves,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, being around like-minded people is what I was taught to do, and I try to do that every day, because if someone's doing something that I should be doing and I see them doing it, meditation is a good example. It makes me almost feel a little guilty for not doing it, because I know I should be doing it, but not to the point where I'm beating myself up, to the point where it motivates me to get off my butt and start, get off my ass and start meditating, or start, doing things, that going for walks, right? Going to the gym when I don't want to go, calling another guy in recovery is another thing that I do to get outside of myself. Right. We mentioned your social media channel and how it's helped you a lot. And I'm starting to do this. I get people reaching out to me that never would have reached out to me before. Friends, old friends, people I used to work with, that kind of had an idea, but didn't really know. And I was telling you this before, is like, I've had more people in the last week or 2 weeks come up to, message me or reach out for help, call me, than I've had in almost, 8 years sometimes, like, because I was so secretive about it, and so I'm grateful that I do this. My family seems to be on board as well. We talked a little bit about that too, is like, sometimes we got to be careful about the stories I share, because some people in my life haven't healed from that yet. Right. And the family gets affected so much in this, and we don't think we're hurting anyone but ourselves. We constantly say that. Right. So it's important that sometimes that I can't just go off and yell about all the shenanigans that I've partaken in. What on your channel, the Recovery Club, what else does it sort of do for you to kind of post as much as you do in those inspirational videos? You post a lot of people in recovery that have really good clips of podcasts, and specifically some people that are more well known than others. And I think for me, at least, when I view that, it's like, oh man, he thinks that way. Wow. Yeah. Like, that's inspirational. I had no idea, but I have a newfound respect for this person. You know what I mean? What does it do for you, kind of staying close to recovery on social media?
I mean, for me to stay sober, fundamentally, I have to give back. Is part of my journey, you know. And we just spoke on now about addiction. Not then, from what I see, there's not much in Bali, and like, so yeah. I want to share awareness. I want to share my story. I just want to give back to others, you know, and what it does for me. You know, I get people reaching out to me daily and describing my exact day of me lying in that hospital bed. I mean, exact day as in terms of just feeling like the world's ending. And, you know, it really pulls me back and reminds me like where I've come from. And, you know, I don't want to hold on to dark times as like as a depressing thing, but I need to keep them close to me, because I know that was my reality, and it can still be my reality.
Absolutely.
In a week's time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the more. Sorry, yeah, you go.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like the more I drift away from remembering that's my reality, the more it could potentially be my reality, you know?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I proved that to myself. You know, with me, it was performance enhancing drugs at first, and it was a long year of justification and denial. When I was using them, even though they weren't directly altering my mood and my mind, I was using them to patch a hole about myself. You know what I mean? Like I didn't didn't feel comfortable about maybe the way I looked, and I realized that in hindsight. You know, you don't really think about that while you're doing it, right? While you're doing it, you're like, this isn't hurting me. This isn't hurting anyone else. I'm good, man. I haven't relapsed yet. I'm good. And then what ends up happening, for me at least, what ended up happening is I would see something else online and be like, well, you know, I could probably get away with that. I do have ADHD, so I could probably get away with some stimulants, you know, if it's prescribed by a doctor. And it's just this cunning, baffling, powerful thought process that just took me down hard, man. It took me down, and I was in denial for so long that it took me a while to get back in here. And I'll never forget this last time around at a treatment center I went to in Canada this time. One of the guys there, he had been sober for 20 years. I was detoxing. I was a mess. I came in there, you know, fresh off a couple week Coke binge. And he just looked at me and he goes, well, because I had told him my story a little bit. He goes, he was one of us, 20 years sober. He goes, well, Anthony, you know, welcome back to recovery. And I just started bawling my eyes out. I started crying because I knew I was in the right place, and I knew I made the right decision to wave the white flag again. But it was hard to get there, man. It was hard to get there. And if anyone needs to hear this right now, you do not need to test it out. If you're a true addict like me, it is not worth it. It's sometimes people don't even make it back in here. So I'm grateful that I made it back in here. I'm upright with a pulse today. You know, even on my worst days, I just try to think that, like, oh my God, I'm alive, man. I've buried a lot of people, you know, in the 10 years I've been in this program. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of fentanyl use on accident, and in Canada, that's, you know, in the UK as well, it's growing as well. But in Canada, especially, there's been a lot of people that have accidentally done fentanyl and not, you know, trying cocaine for the first time, or some are addicts, and it's really sad, man. I got to, remind myself that could have been me. I was doing stuff that I wasn't testing as well. That could have easily been me, you know. If you could say. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just pick up on, because you know, this is why I say to people, like, the power of talking, because the disease is that powerful and cunning that you might be doing behaviors that you think is okay, but it could be leading you down a dark path. And, you know, by sharing it with someone, they can they can pick out, maybe this isn't the right thing, and maybe this will lead you somewhere,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's
Because it
exactly what
is,
I wasn't doing. That's exactly what I wasn't
yeah.
doing. Yeah. Yeah.
Because maybe if you said like to a friend in recovery, look, I'm thinking of taking some, well, if you said to me, Rick, I'm thinking of taking some performance, and I'd say, come on, this is probably not the wisest idea, and where is this coming from,
Where is this? Yeah. Where is this? What's this about? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is this coming from? It's so true, man. Yeah. Talking to someone is my biggest superpower today. And it's really hard. That phone can weigh 1,000 pounds sometimes, If you could go back and say one thing to that, 24-year-old Rick, what do you think you would say?
I would tell him that he is loved. And that as cliche as it sounds, I would tell him that you can have everything you want in life just by talking. Because my pride, my ego, everything just nearly took me to a grave because I didn't want to tell the world my pain.
Yeah.
And the day that switch happened was the day that I began to really push forward in life
And grow, grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. One of my favorite, sayings that I've heard a lot. People have this problem. Some people relate religion to spirituality, and it couldn't be further from each other. They're two completely separate things, in my opinion. And when people, hear the word God, they get all, antsy because of preconceived notions or whatever the way they were brought up. I know, sometimes I did, right? But one of my favorite acronyms for God is grow or die, and I truly believe that if I'm not growing today, I'm moving backwards. And if I'm moving backwards, I'm moving closer to a drink. And then in turn, I'm moving closer to death. For me, to drink is to die today. I have to think like that. Because I don't want to go back out there, man. I don't know what's going to happen if I pick up again. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
And I think those that if anyone's listening and they do struggle with the word God and the idea of spirituality, all I needed was faith. Faith that my thinking got me to a hospital bed, and faith that someone else's thinking was gonna restore me,
I love it.
because my thinking had got me nowhere. I needed faith that someone could guide me,
Yeah. I absolutely love that, Rick. I needed faith that there was another way, there was another way. I didn't have to keep going on this way, I love that. Oh man, great stuff. What, I always ask people this, but I think that this one can be very helpful, hopefully. If someone's struggling out there, you kind of already did it, but if someone that's struggling out there right now doesn't know how to stop drinking, doesn't know how to stop using, doesn't know how to tell someone that they're struggling, what would you say to that person if you could talk to them right now?
I mean, I've said this before, and I do feel like one of the advantages of modern day now is messaging. I think if you are struggling today, just send that one message out to someone that, okay, we deep down we know the good ones in our lives. When we're in addiction, we'll tell ourselves the good ones are the bad ones, but I truly think we all know deep down the good ones, and just reach out, just tell them, and you don't have to go into to crazy detail. Just make that first step of telling someone that you're struggling, and you want change.
Yeah. Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, brother. That was great, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you
Thank you
coming
for having
on.
me.
Yeah, I know we'll keep in touch going forward because
100%.
I think if we were in the same country, I think we'd hang out, man.
Yeah, man,
We got a
definitely.
lot of I love where your mind's at today, and just keep doing it, bro. And I'll keep doing it, because someone needs to hear our stories. Someone here needs to hear our stories.
That's it. And the more we pass like you said before, if one person hears 1 second of this clip that they relate to, and they decide to make the change, then we've won.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. Please help us grow the channel and like, share, and subscribe for more content. The discussions and stories shared on this podcast are for informational and motivational purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, addiction treatment, or therapy. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please consult a licensed physician, addiction specialist, or mental health professional. You are no longer alone.